Hello, welcome to Kirsty's Pilates. I'm going to be doing a hip mobility and strengthening workout. So I'm going to start off mobilising the joints, getting the hip joint moving in all different directions. Then I'm going to do a little bit of strengthening work, so working the muscles around the hips, so the glutes and the hip flexors. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a stretch at the end. So I'm starting standing, and then I'll be going down onto the floor and then doing a few stretches. So I will start. So very basically the posture, standing with your feet hip distance apart and your knees a little bit soft. You've got your string pulling your head up towards the ceiling, so you're standing up nice and tall. Shoulders are rolled back and sliding down, shoulder blades sliding down the back of your ribs. Ribs are focused down towards your hips. And of course your pelvic floor is lifted up nice and tight. You're imagining you're stopping yourself having a wee, and your tummy is squeezed in a little bit. That's just very basic. I'm not going on about that too much because I'm going to focus on the hips. So just to start off with, we'll do a few little pelvic tilts. So your knees are bent and you're just going to tilt your pelvis forwards and backwards a little bit just to get that moving. Forwards and backwards, forwards and backwards. And then you can also do side to side, so just lifting up a hip at the side. Lifting up side to side, and then you can also do round in a circle. Round in a circle one way, and then back the other way. Lovely. Okay, so you're standing up nice and tall. I'm going to do little leg lifts. So we're going to the front, to the side, and then to the back. So we're going to the front, you're lifting up nice and tall, squeezing the tummy in, to the side. And then when you go to the back, you can lean forwards a little bit to make sure that your back isn't arching. Do that again to the front. If you struggle with your balance, you could hold on to something, hold on to the wall or a table or something. Lean forwards a little bit as you go to the back. One more of those. And not forgetting to breathe, of course. And then back. Lovely. And then I'm just going to do some squats. So your feet are hip distance apart. You're going to do a slow squat. If you've got problems with your knees, you don't need to go down too far. You can just do small ones. Otherwise, you can go down a little bit further. Lovely. So then I'm just going to do that all over again. So to the front, to the side. Lean forwards a little bit to the back so that your back's not arching. To the front. And to the side. Just getting the hips moving in all different directions. To the front. To the side. These can be as small as they need to be, and don't have to be as big as I'm doing them. One more lot of those. Forwards. To the side. And then straight back. And then we'll do the squats. So I'm just going to do the squats this way. So when you're doing your squats, you're aiming to sit back as if you're sitting on a chair behind you. So you don't want your knees coming too far forward. You don't want your knees coming further forward than your toes. So you're aiming to sit backwards. Lovely. So then I'm just going to do a little knee lift to the front and to the side. To the front and the side. At the side, standing up tall. And again, you can always hold on to something if you need to help balance. Do that one again, to the front and the side. We're just getting the hips opened up. To the side and again, and the side and the front. Okay, and then you're going to do a little rotation. So the hips circling backwards, and the side, and then you're coming forwards. Lovely. And then we'll just do some more little squats. You can do them as slow as you want to and as small as you need to. A bit deeper down if you're fine with them and your knees are not going too far forward. Lovely. So I'm going to repeat that all again with the knee lifts, and these going to the front and the side, front, and then the other leg. Standing up nice and tall, squeezing the tummy in, lifting up the pelvic floor. And then we've got circles, going backwards, and then circles coming forwards. Lovely, hips are coming forwards. And then your little squats, feet hip distance. Nice little squat. Lovely. So I'm going to do a swish across the front and out to the side. Swish and out to the side. So your hips are getting a little bit looser now. Swishing it out to the side and the other side. So swish and out. Swish and out. Put your foot down in between if you need to. Swish and out. And then some more squats. Okay, I'm just going to do squats with the feet wider, as wide as you're comfortable. Sitting back into it again. Make sure your bottom's going backwards as if you're sitting, perching down on a chair behind you. So your squats are going wide. And then you can also do some with your feet in a narrower position, so feet a little bit narrower than hip distance. So the hips should be a little bit warmed up now. The joints should be moving a bit more freely. Okay, so I'm just going to go quickly through the whole thing again. So lift to the front, just going to do one set of each. To the side, to the front, and to the front, to the side, to the back, lean forwards a little bit, and then you've got your little squats, and then you've got your knee lift to the side, so to the front, and to the side of the leg, front and side. You're thinking about your pelvic floor and your tummy all the time, of course. Circles going back, other leg going back, and then your circles coming forwards. Lovely. And then we've got a few more little squats, sitting back into it. Very small ones if you've got any knee problems. They don't have to be this big. Lovely. So then we've got swish across the front and to the side. You can do it slower than I'm doing it if you need to. And the other side, across and to the side. Just brushing across in front of your foot. Lovely. And then last few sets of squats, we'll do some wide ones, feet wide. Breathing nice and deeply. I haven't mentioned shoulders really, but your shoulders should be relaxed, not hunching up to your ears. I'm just focusing on the hips today. And then some little ones, so feet narrower, little knee bend. Wonderful. Okay, so that's your mobility section. Your hips should be nice and warmed up by now. So we're just going to do a little bit more strengthening. So I'm going to do some little lunges. You can do them as small as you need to. So just step forward, little lunge, and forwards, small as you like. So I'm going to do it to the side. And then we're going to go to the diagonal corner. And then you're going to go straight back. When you go straight back, bend both your knees and keep your tummy squeezed in. Oops. So we'll do that again. So as small as you like, a little lunge forwards. Make sure your knees not going too far forwards. Both knees are bending to the side. You're going to put too much pressure on your knees. Diagonal. And then to the back, so both knees are bending as you sit down into it. Okay, we'll do that one more time. Maybe you can do it a little bit bigger if you're comfortable. To the front, to the side. So you're really working your thighs and your glutes and also your hip flexors down the front of your hips. And to the back. Lovely. So then one more standing up, I'm going to do another squat, a slow squat, and then lift. Squat, Again, you can do this as slow as you like. It's obviously a bit harder if you do it slow. Squat and lift. A few more of these. Lift. Squat and lift. Squat and lift. And a squat and a lift. So those are the standing ones. I'm going to go down onto the floor. If you struggle on the floor, you can always do these next ones lying on your bed. So lying down on the floor or on your bed if you want to, you can relax down, relax this underneath arm and shoulder if that's comfortable, or you can tuck it under like this, or you can have a pillow, of course, to make sure you're nice and comfortable, or prop yourself up, whatever works and whatever is comfortable for you. So your knees are up nice and high and your hips are stacked. Imagine that you've got a metal pole digging through you. It's digging through one hip and then the other one and pinning you to the floor. So your hips can't roll back because the metal pole is keeping you still. We're going to do the oyster. This is one of my favourite exercises. It's really, really good for your hips. So nice and straightforward. You're just lifting and lowering your knee. So your tummy is squeezed in. Your pelvic floor is lifted and you're not forgetting to breathe. You're just lifting and lowering the knee, but you're not letting the hips roll back at all. Hips are staying nice and still. Lovely. So you can, of course, do as many of these as you like. It's opening up your hip. It's working your glute muscles here. So that's the basic oyster. And then the next one you can do is the same thing, but your feet are lifted off of the floor and you're doing the same thing. So lifting your knee. Sometimes people can get a bit more flexibility in their hip if their feet are lifted. So it might be a little bit harder, this one. So your tummy squeezed in, your pelvic floor is lifted and you're breathing nice and deeply. I'm just going to do two sets of the oyster. There's other things that you can do to add in, but for now that's all I'm going to do. So this is strengthening your glute muscles around, which is really, really good for your hip. Okay, so I'm going to swap sides. So make sure that you're comfortable in whatever position you're in. So again, you could lie down, relax down onto that arm if you want to, or with the pillow, or prop yourself up. So your knees are up nice and high. Your hips are stacked in a nice straight line, and you're just lifting and lowering your knee. So your pelvic floor is lifted, your tummy is squeezed in, you're not allowing your hips to roll back. And that's all there is to it. It's a lovely, lovely exercise. The slower you do it, the better. If you do it even slower, it's a bit harder. That would be great. And you can do as many as you like, but it's quite nice and straightforward and simple, but after you've done a few, it does start to hurt. So, lovely. And then you've got your second lot. Feet lifted. Again, you're lifting and lowering your knee and you're not allowing your hips to roll back. So they're staying stacked in a nice straight line, not letting them roll back. They're staying in a nice straight line like that. And your tummy's lifted. Wonderful. Okay. So I'm just going to do one more exercise, very, very straightforward and basic exercise on your back. So again, this could be done in bed if you don't want to get down onto the floor. If you can't get down onto the floor, you can do it in bed. Very, very simple exercise. It's the single leg raise. So one foot is on the floor and the other leg is straight out. You keep your tummy squeezed in and your pelvic floor lifted. All you're going to do is lift and lower the other leg. So this leg is nice and straight. The movement is coming from your hip and you're keeping your tummy squeezed in, and there should be no movement in your pelvis. It's nice and flat. So you're going to be working your thigh and also your hip flexor muscle here at the front of your hip. So it can be very, very gentle. If you want to do it slower, be a little bit harder. And make sure that you're breathing and make sure that the leg is nice and straight. So I'm going to do the other side. So foot on the floor, the other leg is straight out. Pelvis is nice and still and the tummy's squeezed in, so you're just lifting and lowering. So you don't need to bring your foot up high, you can keep it quite low down towards the floor. If anything's too hard, you can have a rest, you can put your foot down in between. But if you can keep it lifted, that's obviously a bit harder. Lovely. Breathing and keeping the tummy squeezing. So that's a few exercises we've done that will be strengthening the muscles around the hips. And I'm just going to do a few little stretches now. So I'm going to do the glute stretch, feet a hip distance apart. You're going to cross one leg over so that ankle is on your thigh. Try to keep this knee turned out if you can, as much as you can. If it's not comfortable, obviously don't do it with anything in Pilates. If it hurts, then you need to stop and don't do it. Don't push yourself too far. So if it's okay, nice and comfortable, hold on to the other leg, squeeze the tummy and then lift up that thigh towards you. So if you can keep this knee turned out, you'll get a bigger stretch down this glute, down this buttock. So hold it there as close in as you can, as is as comfortable for you, and breathe nice and deeply. And you can hold it there as long as you want to. Obviously, a longer time will be a better stretch for you. This is a really good exercise to do in bed when you wake up in the morning, to really start stretching out your back before you get up. Other side, feet hip distance apart, cross your leg over, your ankles on your thigh. Keep this knee turned out if you can, bring the other leg in towards you. Keep the tummy squeezed in and you will feel the stretch down this side here. Nice deep breathing. Lovely. So I'm just going to do 2 more stretches. If this is comfortable for you, if anything's not comfortable for you, then don't do it. So if this is okay for you, sitting up with your feet together and your spine's nice and long, you're going to stretch out the inner thighs, but also the hip flexors here at the front. So you're breathing. Just relax. I wouldn't push the knees down. I would just relax in that position and just breathe nice and deeply to try and relax those muscles. And again, whatever is comfortable for you. If this feels awful to you, then you don't want to do this position. And then the last one I'm going to do is specifically a hip flexor stretch. So you're on your knees and your knees are hip distance apart. Bring one foot up, make sure that foot is quite far forward. And then from here, you're going to tuck your bottom under and then lean into it. You want to make sure that your knee doesn't go further forward than your toes. So if your foot was here and your knee's going too far forward, that's not great for your knee, so you'll bring your foot further forward. Tucking under and breathing as you're getting a stretch down here. Nice deep breathing. You could do this one standing up if you've got dodgy knees and it's uncomfortable to do this position. You can do a similar thing standing up. Other side, knees hip distance, foot's forward, tuck the bottom under and then lean into it to get a stretch down the front of that hip, your hip flexor muscle. These muscles can get very, very tight. So it's really, really good to stretch them out. And breathe. And there we are. So that was just a little bit of mobility, a little bit of strengthening and a little bit of a stretch of your muscles surrounding your hips, which can help if you have any problems with your hips. I've got arthritis in both my hips, and the reason I'm not in pain is because of all the Pilates I'm doing, specifically exercises like these. So they really, really help everybody. And thank you very much.